And so, it continues. Hello there, welcome back to Max's Writing Advice Q&A. On today's episode, I've got a selection of questions sent by viewers just like you and picked through a random number generator every week. You, the dear viewer, leave your questions in the comments and I give you a brief answer to make sure that you don't go on waiting for a long time. But then, I grab your questions and I add them to a pile of questions from which 3 are chosen. Mightily chosen every week, and I answer them in full in this video. Today, I have a special selection of questions, but before I go on anywhere, my NaNoWriMo Answerathon, National Novel Writing Month Answerathon, is literally like around the corner. If you have NaNoWriMo related questions, leave them in the comments down below as well. I will answer all of them. Not randomly selected. You don't gotta get lucky. I'm gonna answer all of them in an upcoming extra long video, so there's that. And of course, as with every video, there's the official disclaimer where I let you know that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion on what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who looks a little bit, or rather precisely like this. Alright, enough with the silliness. The first question of the day is a bit of an interesting question, and it goes a little bit like this. Hey Max, I've been planning my NaNoWriMo novel for a while, and I feel like I'm ready to start writing it. But I have to wait a whole month before I can do that? I feel like I might lose my excitement about the story before I can even start writing it. What do I do? This is a very interesting question that you are proposing there to me, dear writerly friend. You have a cool story idea. You want to write it. You're excited. But the idea of waiting a month seems so unfair. It seems so outrageous. You know what? You know what we should do? You know what we should totally do? Not wait at all. But seriously though, remember that although it's really easy to get super excited for NaNoWriMo to be part of like the community, like writing and sharing your word counts and talking to people, following tags, all that stuff, it's exciting, sure. But the ultimate goal of NaNoWriMo, let us remember again that it's not to write 50,000 words in 30 days. I know that that's what it says on the tin, and I know that like it sounds really radical, but the ultimate goal though is to build the habit to write. And honestly, real talk, 50,000 words a novel does not make. So there kind of comes this point where you gotta realize that if you only write 50,000 words, you're not gonna finish a novel, and if you stop writing on November 30th, then what was exactly the gain? My advice to you is this. If you're excited about the story right now, and trust me, your story might go long, it'll probably go more than 50,000 words, start writing already. Just start. No one can stop you. And just to be clear, because everyone asks about this every year, you don't have to start a novel on November 1st. You can work on a previous project. The ultimate goal is just, you know, what it says on the website, to write 50,000 words. So, it's okay. It's completely fine. So, dear writerly friend out there, eager, excited, almost jumping at the chance to start writing this story, just start. Just start. It's better, I think, to harness all this excitement and all this energy in a positive way, and why make this story wait? Keep on writing, start writing it now, and when November shows up, keep on writing then, and if it's not done then, it requires more, right through December. The whole point of this is to build the habit to write, so jump in and get writing, okay? Okay, now with that nice question out of the way, a little silly, I know, a little silly, but you gotta harness that excitement, you gotta, you know, if you want to write the story, just start writing it. It's okay. It's okay. I know that it's exciting to be part of NaNoWriMo and stuff, but it's fine. Just jump in, start writing. No one's gonna judge you. And honestly, if you get that book done sooner, then the sooner you can move on with another project and then maybe start revising the story that you finished. You know, it's all part of the process. So, jump in. Anyhow. The following question is I don't want to say it's a more serious one, but it's an odd question. It's something that comes up. It pops up every once in a while, so let's talk about it. It goes a little bit like this. People tell me that unless I read a lot, I won't be a good writer. Is this true? They haven't even read my writing. How can they tell that I am good or not? This is a tough question. Let's take a step back. Would you trust the word of a movie director who claims they don't watch movies? Would you take the word of a musician who claims that they don't listen to other people's music? Would you take the word of a game developer who doesn't play video games? My thing is this: writing, pretty much like any other craft out there, is in part about cross-pollination. You learn from other people, you get inspired by reading other people's work, and you learn so much by doing a lot of reading. I'll talk more about that in a second, but understand that reading a lot helps lots, because you notice when a writer pulls off something rather gracefully, or they have a particular passage that moves you, and you go, yeah, oh, that's a great way of saying something like that. I'm gonna keep this in mind. You learn from the good books, and you also learn from the bad books. Oh, maybe you learn even more from the bad books. You learn from passages that are not very effective, from story arcs that are not very well done. The best part of reading books that are not very effective is that you get to learn from their mistakes without having to make them yourself. And also, one more thing. I'm not trying to be rude, I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just trying to make the point here. How do you know that your writing is good if you don't read other people's work? What's your point of reference to know that your writing is good, that you're telling an effective story? And more importantly, how can you expect your work to move readers, to have an emotional resonance within their hearts, if you haven't felt that yourself? And one more thing, there is one particular Stephen King quote that I come back to all the time, and that is that a writer who doesn't read doesn't have the tools or the vocabulary to write stories. I would say write them effectively, because you can definitely write stories. They just won't be very effective. And the vocabulary is important, sure. I don't particularly think that it's the be-all end-all, but the tools though, learning from other people. Life is too short to make all the mistakes, and you don't want to make all of the mistakes that bad books make. So, thankfully though, this is like the easiest thing in the world to fix, because not reading books requires just starting to read books. Is there a book that everyone recommends, or people who you respect have always recommended to you? Is there a book you have always wanted to read? You should probably pick up those books and read them. And as a little bit of a final note, before we move on forward to the next conversation, also I'm pretty sure the white balance on my camera just changed between the last like two sentences that I spoke. But anyhow, maybe I'll fix it in between this and the next question. But reading books incredibly helps, not only because it's fun, but also because it teaches you different ways of narrating or relaying to the reader elements of the story. There are countless moments that I can remember where I was reading a book as a writer, where I was reading a book and I would say, oh, that's a really smart way of saying that. That is an incredibly clear way of explaining to the reader that this character is confused. Or, wow, that's a really effective way of explaining their magic system. To the extent where you are sitting there as a writer and ask yourself, I don't think I could have pulled that off better. And that's good, because you're learning from someone else without having to make all the mistakes. Again, life is too damn short to make all the mistakes yourself, so learn from other people's mistakes. Learn from the good, learn from the bad, read some books, learn from the good, learn from the bad, and have fun. It's honestly really fun to acknowledge, to take the words of another writer who may be dead. Words on the page are kind of like magic, because you're experiencing someone else's impression on a page, and especially when that writer themselves are gone. It's like a phantom voice telling you a story, and it's always exciting, because the version that you're picturing in your mind is the version that only you and only you could have seen. No matter what the writer intended you to see, you're seeing your own version, your own unique universe, and the special effects budget is always unlimited. So, go read some books, okay? Okay. I seem completely unable to fix the white balance on my particular camera, so I guess it's gonna be extra black, high contrast, I guess. My hands look orange. I hate everything. Let's take it for the last question of the day. It goes a little bit like this. For a fantasy novel, I had the idea of annexes, short fragments of books that exist inside the fictional universe I am writing about, placed in between chapters. They would serve to flesh out the world and to deepen the lore. Is this a good idea? I think that before we talk about whether it is a good or a bad idea, we should first and foremost talk about whether it is effective. And what is your ultimate goal? Because if your goal is to deepen the lore and to make the world feel more alive by making it seem as though there's more than just what the characters are dealing with, there are these documents, these bits of books that exist inside the world, to make it seem more deep, if that is the case, I have to admit, in my own personal experience, that I haven't really experienced a version of this that was, and like, it was more effective than not having it. I've seen stories where, like, in between the chapters there's like bits of documents, like a police report or like a letter between this character to the other character, and it was interesting. It was definitely a change of flow, but I don't remember ever feeling if it was super effective. Super effective! What I want to take from this is this. In my experience, I found that these sort of like documents inside of like a book inside of a book, like, they tend to be interesting, sure, but more often than not, in my experience, because, you know, if you can do the thing that I'm going to tell you in a little bit, then it's fine, but I find when I was reading them that they would often just take me out of the story, and there's nothing worse. Oh, there's nothing worse than a cliffhanger. Chapter ends with a cliffhanger, flip the page, it's like a police report, and I'm just like, no, I want to know what happens next. Ultimately, and I don't want to be rude, but like ultimately I feel that your readers are going to be signed up for your characters, not particularly your setting. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. In my experience, I haven't seen it be that effective. If you can pull it off though, if you can find a way to make these annexes, these extra bits of documents and books inside of the book, within the book, if you can make them important to what the characters are doing, and if you can make them not break the flow of the story, I think they'll be fine. I feel that these have to be meaningful. I feel like, because the last thing you want, the very last thing that you want is for the reader to finish the book, close it, and go, what was the point of all those documents? You know? I know, I totally get where you're coming from with wanting to like deepen the lore, and I totally get that. But part of me is that, like, is this lore meaningful to the things that are happening? So again, dear writerly friend out there, I think this is one of those things where you have to see how you can make it work for your story, what you can do. I'm not saying it's impossible. I am always out there picking up new books, looking for stories to read to surprise me. Maybe there's a book out there, or several books out there, who have pulled this off very well, and I haven't seen them yet. And you know what? I would only know if I took the time to go and read them or find them. If there are books that have done this, I would love to take your book recommendations. I'm always looking for recommendations, so no worries there. Again, I don't think it is about good or bad. It's about whether it is effective to the story or not. And again, I think that at its core, if these articles do one thing, they have to be meaningful to the story. In one way, shape, or form, they have to be meaningful to what our characters are dealing with. And if you can do that, I think the reader will close the final page and go, yeah, those little documents added to the story, not take away from it. Okay? Okay. And that's it for today's video. The white balance is still super mega wrong, but you know what? That's life. That's the way things go. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. If you have a question for a future video, leave it in the comments down below. I'll give you a quick answer and then add it to the pile of questions for a future video. And if you have a question, the white balance is terrible. If you have a question, I'm never going to wear a black shirt ever again. If you have a question for the NaNoWriMo Answer-a-thon, please leave it in the comments down below as well. I'll give you an answer and I will answer it in full length in one video. I'm going to answer every question. No dice rolling involved. All questions will be answered. For the time being, though, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to make sure that I can continue on making videos for the foreseeable future, please consider pledging to my Patreon page. Patreon is a wonderful website where viewers just like you can support the content creators that you enjoy and the content that you love. But if Patreon's not your cup of coffee, how about a cup of tea instead? Links to all of these things in the description down below. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. And I will see you on the next one.